What would you like to talk about?
Got anything done today?
Well, look, I'll go first then. Obviously, we traded PK Subban. First thing I want to say is that how good that PK was for the Predators, both on and off the ice. I would say in the last 3 years that he's been with us, that's probably equals or probably exceeds any of the best 3 seasons we've ever had in our history. And he was a big part of that. Stanley Cup Finals, 2 conferences, division winners in a row. He was great on the ice, and equally, if not more important, he was fabulous off the ice. I mean, he's a magnet for attention, for selling the game, and doing a lot of really good things. His charitable work is second to none. He did this Best Buddies thing in Nashville, which I hope we can somehow keep going with another player or what have you. But just really good things. The energy that he brings to any team, I think it's going to be fabulous for New Jersey and their market. And from that standpoint, I'm really, it's kind of disappointing to be traded. Having said that, in this day and age, there's certain things that happen and need to happen in a cap era. Our team was trending in a certain way with our contracts that we needed to make some decisions going forward, and that's what we did today. I can also say too that last year at this time when we lost out, I told everybody that we weren't going to make any changes because I was very happy with our team, and I didn't make any changes. And this year I said I was going to make some changes. So obviously this is a big change, and when you do this, it's we're going to have without PK, we're going to have a different team next year. So that's where I'm at. So I'll take your questions.
David, at the end of the season, PK was realistic that this could be a possibility. Were you of the same mind at that time that this could happen?
That was one of my thoughts right out of the gate. I mean, PK makes $9 million. It's the highest contract that the Predators have, and he and I even talked about that. And so, yeah, that was a consideration after the season. Yes.
Was strictly just the contract, or in terms of PK, or is it just about the makeup of the defense? In terms of
the good news is the makeup of our defense is still very good. Again, I probably would not have made this trade if Dante Fabro hadn't signed with the Predators and hadn't played at the end of the year and hadn't played as well as he did. I mean, that gave me good confidence that our defense, led by our captain Roman Josi, Ekholm, and Ellis, and now with Fabro, being a really good young player, that we could still have a good defense and trade somebody like PK.
First, the Devils taking the full freight of the salary, the determining factor in them sort of winning the Derby for PK.
That was a big factor. I talked to some other teams, and I'll be honest that some of the components were salary retention. All the deals were different in terms of trades and getting players back or what have you. But this clearly was the deal that allowed us to save the most or create the most cap space.
When you first envisioned potentially making this trade, did you think being able to move the entire contract the way you did was a possibility, or were you pleasantly surprised when that deal came up?
I was open-minded. I mean, like I said, there wasn't. I don't want to tell you there was 31 teams involved. There was only X number of teams in the cap situation, and you could do your own research, and that actually could take on $9 million. That's why I was talking to other teams that there was trades involved, with players with higher contracts, or there was salary retention. So everybody that I talked to, there was a little bit different deal.
Obviously, not getting any NHL players back in the trade lends you to believe that you guys are probably going to, you got Roman, but also free agency. How big are you looking to make a big free agent acquisition soon?
Well, that's July 1st. Well, we'll see. I mean, today I just cleared the space, and I don't feel like tonight I just want to give it back. Because I must tell you that obviously they say cash is king and what have you. And the Predators for a lot of years has always operated in that position. So it's honestly become a little uncomfortable with where we were. So I want to see what this week brings, and we're going to explore some different things for sure. We're going to be talking to some people on free agency. but no promises, no commitment, no exact goals. We'll see what happens.
David, was there a desire throughout this process of having an NHL player, an NHL-ready player, come back in return for PK?
No, I was not. I was open-minded to everything and anything, and hopefully with Santini, who's played some in the National Hockey League and has been, I guess you would say, somewhat irregular in his career. I mean, we have good scouting reports on him. We think he's a player with given more of an opportunity can be a better player. But I was open-minded to pretty well anything. And again, I said earlier that in this deal, New Jersey took the full $9 million. So that certainly was one of the determining factors.
David, do you think that people understand that, though? Like the salary cap space is a commodity, like a draft choice is a commodity, and like a good player is a commodity, because people sometimes just say PK Subban for, but
that's the hardest thing for fans, and I would say the players to understand. And listen, even I will tell you, it was hard in our discussions with my own people to understand that have $9 million in cap space could be worth a first-round pick. I mean, in this case, it was worth 2 second-round picks. In our minds, two young prospects. That's what it was worth. For example, Toronto traded yesterday or today, whatever, Marlowe's rights to Carolina, which, if I understand this correctly, Marlowe, if he doesn't play there, Carolina's agreed to buy him out. They're getting a first-round pick for that. My calculation of that is, say, Toronto's $6.25 million in cap space. And they give up a first-round pick to do that. So that's unbelievable value for cap space.
We're going to see more of that, you think?
I think right now with we're going to find out, I guess, tonight or tomorrow what the cap is going to be, and we were told it's going to be between $81.5 and $82 million. It's not going up at the same percentage rate it has for all the years, the 14 years of this CBA since we've had a cap, and that's going to put teams certainly under a lot more pressure. So I think cap space for the third or fourth time is very valuable, and I think there's some teams that are up against it, and you're going to see some more trades like Toronto made to Carolina to free cap space.
The cap was just announced today, 81.5. Just FYI.
He's punking you.
I had done all my forms and calculations based on 82.
David, does this move in any way expedite or place the Roman Josi contract negotiations into the next year?
No, it didn't expedite it, but it's part of it. I mean, we could have probably, I've talked to you about this before, we could have probably gone through this year, if not doing everything. I think we were pretty well cap compliant, but yes, I wanted to get on it. I wanted to do it if I could. I just feel more comfortable where we are right now. But I know we've taken a good player off our team, so I can't sit here and say we're a better team for doing that.
David, I know that I've asked you this a couple of times, but with the pending unrestricted free agents, any clarity on who may or may not be coming back?
Right now, Wayne Simmons will not be coming back. Zach Ronaldo, Cody McLeod, and I met with Brian Poile's agent in Vancouver here, and I'm going to have some other discussions with him. But I don't know if that's going to work. I think Brian was very good for us, great person. If I could find a way to bring him back, we have time for that.
How do you feel how do you feel PK should be remembered in Nashville from any perspective, on ice, off ice? What do you think his lasting legacy will be from his 3 years with the organization?
Boy, I think of a lot of things. It probably starts with energy. I mean, there was never a bad day for PK Subban. I mean, he always came to the ring happy, played the game with great gusto. I think he's totally committed. Even I see he's already on all of the social media stuff, thanking the fans and what have you. I mean, he just is one of the most positive people that I've met. I mean, he wants to. I think he cares about the game. I mean, there's no question he cares about himself and his brand or what have you. But I think he loves the game, and I think he wants to leave a lasting impression. I'm probably not answering that exactly right, but it's a whole bunch of things with him. He just brings so much to the table.
Are you looking to clear out more salary before July 1st, or is this the piece that needed to move?
Again, I'd like to know what I can do or can't do in the next week, whether it's free agency or trades. We just had this discussion that other teams are probably up against the cap. I'm probably looking for more discussion next week than maybe I had this week. We'll see what that brings.
He wants to know if you're trading Kyle Turris.
How long did it take you to make the Subban deal? How long did it take you to finalize the Subban deal?
Well, I probably haven't been talking about it for more than the last couple of weeks. I maybe have mentioned it, to a couple of teams because I wasn't totally sure this is the road I want to do. And I think whenever, in this day and age, whenever you mention a player's name, especially a player's name of PK Subban, there'll be lots of. It gets out and then it creates some problems for the team. So it hasn't been that long, and it wasn't like a lot of clubs. A couple of weeks, I guess.
How many teams would you say had in serious intentions?
I'd say at the end of the day, there was probably about 4 teams that were serious that I could have probably gone in 4 different directions if I wanted to. But again, they were all totally different.
Those 4 teams were willing to take on the whole.
No, I didn't say that.
I'm asking. That's why.
No, because a lot of the teams had something to do with retention.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, that was not really favorable to me. I wasn't totally against it, but at the end of the day, for various and different reasons, I didn't go that direction.
I'm just asking because I imagine that factor is the most complicating or the most mitigating factor in dealing with teams, in the sense that it's got to largely limit your options.
Yeah, like I said earlier, let's say there was a deal for PK and I took back somebody that was making $5 million. More of a, say, the hockey deal if you want. And I'm not saying that wasn't a bad option or what have you, but that would have only cleared $4 million of cap space.
Why New Jersey on top? What did New Jersey bring? Was it the 2 players you got in return, or?
It's a number of factors, as we said earlier, and one of the certainly determining factors. But they took all of the $9 million cap. Our cupboard hasn't been exactly full in the last few years because we've traded away a lot of draft picks. So getting 2 second-round picks is not bad. The second-round pick that we got, we traded right away, for example, and got a 3rd-round pick. And I'm just saying, this is our list. We end up getting the player that we're going to take on 34, on 45 that we traded. So I think we turned that into another draft pick. So that felt good.
One last question for David.
Was the cap the determining factor why we didn't see a whole lot of movement this last few days?
Yeah, I think the cap has certainly played a factor in the lack of movement. I think some teams are up against it. I think some teams are trying to be creative. We were one of them. Toronto was another one of them. I think with free agencies this year and the dollars that are going to be spent, could be a little bit different. At some point, there's got to be a cutoff in terms of how much money is in we know how much money you can put into the system. So for every free agent that gets this really huge contract, there may be somebody else that doesn't get anywhere near what you can get. We'll have to see how it plays out.